evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Twitter, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. As always, I'm Bryson Carver. Very excited to be with you on this Wednesday show. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are back on a Wednesday. The Thursday schedule was nice for the NBA Finals, but we're back for our regularly scheduled programming. I will say this. We are going to be doing something today on the show. Obviously, we're going to talk Celtics. We're going to lead the show off with Celtics and two things that Boston did that I find admirable and wish more teams would repeat it. That in just a second. We are going to be doing something Carving Up Live we've never done before. It is called Rocky Top Watch. So many of you out there know I'm a Tennessee Vols fan, huge Tennessee Vols fan. The fact of the matter is that the Tennessee Volunteers baseball team is 8 outs away from the College Baseball World Series final, and the game's going on right now, obviously. And so, assuming Tennessee wins, and we're up 6-2 right now in the 7th inning, we're going to do a little celebration, a little Rocky Top style celebration live on Carving It Up. So definitely stay tuned for that Rocky Top watch throughout the show. Going to be talking Tatum and Brown, why Jaylen Brown absolutely was deserving of winning the NBA Finals MVP, that later on the show. What Luka Doncic needs to do this offseason, I talked about it last week. Going to kind of build off of that today after the Mavericks lose in 5 games in this finals. I did pick Dallas. Not one of my better predictions. I've never correctly predicted an NBA Finals that didn't involve my Golden State Warriors. That is something I guess I will just have to break next year, unless the Warriors are in it. Otherwise, I'm okay with waiting another year. Also going to discuss Willie Mays, who passed away yesterday, arguably the greatest baseball player who ever played. I'm going to talk about him and his legacy at the end of today's show. And also, ESPN put out a question on their social media that I think is a really interesting one, right? Who is the best NBA champion of the last 5 years? So 2020 Lakers on to 2024 Celtics. Who's the best team? I'll give you my answer for that, but also which team had the most impressive run? That, to me, ladies and gentlemen, is a different question. That in about 45 minutes from now. So very excited to get going Carving Up Live. My man Tim is over the moon for obvious reason. Boston Sports Summit, let's go Celtics. He's going to be going live in less than an hour, and I imagine he'll have a jam-packed show talking about the Boston Celtics. So let's talk about them. But first, Boston Celtics win the 2024 NBA Finals in 5 games. They win Game 5 in dominant fashion over Dallas. Yes, I did pick the Dallas Mavericks to win the series. And yes, I did say that while I gave the Celtics a 90% chance to win Game 5, I thought that was their best opportunity to go in and get this thing over with, get this title, get banner number 18 hanging in the rafters. I simultaneously held the thought that if Dallas won that game, momentum totally shifts. Dallas wins Game 6 and Game 7. God knows the pressure that's on the Celtics at that point. But the Celtics did what they were supposed to do, took care of business in a Game 5 in Boston against the Mavericks. 106-88 was the final score in that game. But again, Jason Tatum drops 31, 11, and 8, almost a triple-double. Jaylen Brown drops 21. More on sort of the why I think Brown was deserving of winning Finals MVP later in the show. I want to talk about Boston, though, as in terms of their organizational makeup and why they won the 2024 NBA championship. Because to me, they exposed 2 truths that I believe in to my core. And they did the right things to sort of expose both truths to be truths. The first one is aggressive wins in sports. It just does. Now, sometimes aggressive doesn't win, but you got a better chance to be successful when you're taking big swings to get to where you want to be if you're, as opposed to standing pat, staying comfortable, not putting yourself out there. And Toronto Raptors wouldn't be champions if not for a big swing getting Kawhi Leonard. Los Angeles Lakers wouldn't be champions had they not went out and gotten Anthony Davis. So we've seen this time and time again throughout NBA history. Boston made a lot of moves that could be considered, at least at the time, that's an interesting move, a little risky move, or maybe I like that one. Or they got Al Horford in 2021. Brought him back to Boston from in a trade with Oklahoma City. Before that, Brad Stevens said, you know what, this coaching thing, I'm really good at it, but at the same time, I just don't feel like my voice and my message is connecting with the locker room. So I'm going to go with the front office. I'm a smart guy. I can put a team together. First move, get Al Horford. Okay, so the Celtics put that piece together. Later on that season, in a year that the Celtics ended up going to the NBA Finals, midway through, they get Derek White in a trade with the San Antonio Spurs. Yes, draft capital has been valuable to the Boston Celtics over the years. It's how they got Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in the Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett trade. But they said Derek White can help us get to an NBA Finals and win one. Well, help them get to one in 2022. So what did Boston do beyond that? They said, okay, we're going to go out and get Malcolm Brogdon. Big swing that really didn't work out that well. Brogdon's a good player. I've always been a fan of Malcolm Brogdon, but it just didn't materialize the way the Boston Celtics had hoped. So what did they do? They go on to be the second best team in the Eastern Conference, second best team record-wise in the NBA. They're down 3-0 to the Miami Heat, come back to go to a Game 7. Tatum turns his ankle seconds in. They get blown out at home and miss out on a golden opportunity to potentially win a championship last year. And the Celtics had a decision to make at that point. Okay. We've gone to a ton of conference finals since 2017. I believe 5 to be exact, if I'm not mistaken. 17, 18, 20, and 22, 23. Yep, that's 5 NBA conference finals in the last 5 years. And NBA finals in that stretch as well, where they lost to my Warriors. We're good, clearly. Jason Tatum's excellent. First team All-NBA guy. Jaylen Brown, who should have been All-NBA this year, by the way. Excellent all-star level player and a good overall squad around us. Not enough. Marcus Smart, I'm a firm believer in this. The Boston Celtics, as it pertains to the overall process in getting to this point, are not champions unless Marcus Smart is a part of that franchise for years. He helped set the foundation and build the culture into what it is now. He was one of the foundational pieces and a valuable player to that team. They said, we've tried it with Marcus Smart, and it's got a cap on it. Shoots too much, is a very good defender, not as great as some tried to make him out to be. We're going to move him for a guy who played 51 games last year. I think it was 51 games last year, and Kristaps Porzingis. It's gutsy. Very gutsy. I was a guy back then in the tram, like, I like it. He gives them a higher ceiling than Smart gives them, but man, this is risky. His injury history, can he hold up? How's this going to work? And as it turned out, he ended up getting hurt at the end of the season. Now he was able to come back in Game 5 and give the Celtics what he could give them, but he's probably going to have surgery this offseason. But it was a big swing. Ended up working out pretty well. Later on, right before the season, the Bucks made the trade of the NBA offseason, trading for Damian Lillard. And at that point, I'm of the mindset, man, Bucks, they're in the catbird seat to win the Eastern Conference and potentially win the NBA Finals. And so what do the Bucks do? They trade Jrue Holiday to the Portland Trail Blazers. So the Celtics say, okay, Portland's tanking. Drew's going to end up on a contender. Malcolm Brogdon took a big swing, didn't work. Okay, move off it. Move on to go get Jrue Holiday, who, when he was traded year 1 to the Milwaukee Bucks, all he did was be the second best player on a championship-winning team and help Giannis and the Bucks win their first title in a half century. Let's go get that guy. Best defender in the NBA, under 6'5", can lock up some of the better guards in the conference. Should we run into a Jalen Brunson? Should we run into a Tyrese Halliburton or a Damian Lillard, depending on who the Celtics would run into in a 7-game series? Oh, and by the way, any given night, he can give us 20. Big swings all paying off because they took them. Because they have a smart guy in Brad Stevens running the organization, and they also did something too. You're like, okay, Bryson, that's the first truth. What's the second truth of the Boston Celtics in winning the 2024 title? What did they expose? What did they show? Not just the NBA world, but the sports world, at least the team sports world. Aggressive wins in sports, yes. But there's a fine line. We hear this word all the time in many different contexts in professional sports. Loyalty, right? Hear that all the time. Loyalty is a good thing, I believe, as long as you're loyal to the right things. And for years, I was not in this camp, unless 2 years ago it meant getting Kevin Durant, obviously. Get a guy that caliber, you do what you got to do to get him. The Boston Celtics said, you know what, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, we feel like we can win with these guys. We are going to stand pat. We've seen what they're capable of. They're all-star level players. We feel we can get to the top if we put the requisite pieces around them. And look where they are today. NBA champions. Jaylen Brown's MVP. Jason Tatum, 3-time back-to-back first-team All-NBA, and led the team in scoring, rebounding, and assists in the NBA Finals. We'll assess Tatum's overall performance and Brown's overall performance later in the show. But the Boston Celtics were loyal to the right things. They weren't loyal to Marcus Smart when it was all said and done. They weren't loyal to Al Horford, and then they were loyal to Al Horford. They weren't loyal to guys like a Terry Rozier, for example. They weren't loyal to guys who were good, just couldn't get us right over the top the way that a Porzingis and a Drew Holiday and a Derek White could with our two superstar players. Or in the case of Tatum, I believe him to be a superstar. Brown is no question, bare minimum, a star. And if you look at the Boston Celtics, yes, the number of moves, which really, if you want to be technical about it, started way back in 2013 with the Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett trade to the Brooklyn Nets, in which they got the third overall pick, drafted Jaylen Brown in 2016, and with the third pick in 2017, drafted Jason Tatum, their 1-2 duo, 1-2 punch. But they were loyal to the right things. And they were aggressive, which wins in team sports. That's why they're champions today. Yes, they went on a dominant postseason run and deserve massive credit for that. And I'll talk about sort of their run later in the show, sort of contextualize it to the best of my ability. But they were aggressive and they were loyal to the right things. You can be, there's nothing wrong with being the Los Angeles Lakers and being loyal to Austin Reeves, good player, but probably wouldn't start in the Boston Celtics if we're being honest. Given that makeup, I'd take Derek White over Austin Reeves any day of the week, with all due respect to Austin Reeves. There's nothing wrong. This is what I'm kind of cautioning my Warriors on being right now. There's nothing wrong with being loyal to Klay Thompson, especially after what he's given you over the last decade. But he can't really help you win right now at a certain price. If the price isn't right, you probably got to let Klay go. As much as that hurts me as a Warriors fan to say, you probably got to let him go. Loyal to the right things while simultaneously being aggressive. Those two things can work in sequence, in conjunction with one another. But you can't be too loyal. Otherwise, you'll be the Pittsburgh Steelers. I love my Steelers, but they've been too loyal at points, to a fault. And you have to also be aggressive. And that's what the Boston Celtics were. That's why they're NBA champions. That's why they're the favorites to go back-to-back next year. I don't know if they will. I'm not going to predict the NBA Finals in 2025 till October. That's what my job is to do on the show. But in the here and now, this is the best team start to finish. I was wrong in this finals. I picked Dallas. I thought Dallas, and still think Dallas has the best player in the series in Luka Doncic. I still do believe I don't think it's a question. He's better than Tatum and Brown, with all due respect to those two NBA champions. But I thought the run to get to the finals certainly, I think, was inarguably more impressive in terms of the opponents they went through. I thought there were matchups they could expose. Boston say, you know what we have? Depth, length, and guess what? And I admitted this after game 2. I apologize. A pretty darn good coach in Joe Mazzulla. Listen, Joe looked in over his head last year, particularly against Eric Spoelstra, which, with all due respect, a lot of coaches look in over their head against Eric Spoelstra, who I believe to be the best coach in basketball. But he tweaked, he adjusted, he added to his staff. I remember me and John Rivera, shout out John, Fan Perspective Podcast. We seem to be the only people in the world who acknowledge the Sam Cassell hiring as an assistant with the Boston Celtics. It was like, whoa, nice move. Like, that's a darn good number one assistant to have in Boston. Joe Mazzulla got better. He improved. He adjusted. And the thing I give him a ton of credit on, aside from like 2 or 3 minute spurts, Boston's execution, particularly in the offensive end, was darn near flawless. They reminded me in a lot of ways of the 2014 San Antonio Spurs, where was the best player Duncan? Was it Kawhi Leonard? There's a Parker, there's Ginobili, we got some good pieces like a Boris Diaw, like a Marco Bellinelli. Like, we got some nice players around these, Patty Mills. No, I mean, we think we know who the best player on the team is, but it's not a consensus around the NBA. But God, do we play perfect offense? Man, do we play good team basketball playing within a set offense. And that's who the Celtics remind me of. 10 years ago, the Spurs did it in a very similar way that the Celtics did it, in a gentleman's sweep against a really, really good Mavs team and a really good Heat team 10 years ago. So shout out to the Boston Celtics, 2024 NBA champions, a very deserving champion. And for the moment, once again, the Celtics have the most NBA titles with 18. First team to get to 18 titles, followed by the Lakers at 17, and followed then, a distant third, I might add, but by my Golden State Warriors with 7 NBA titles. So no question, congratulations to the Boston Celtics, a very worthy NBA champion. Real quick, I apologize greatly, and I mean that, for not acknowledging this at the beginning of the show. I'm telling you, when I get into prep mode for this show, I get into like my own world, like, okay, I'm zoning in on whatever, and I totally forget. And like during holidays and all this stuff, I did want to take a moment to acknowledge Juneteenth today. So Juneteenth, I think most people by now know, at least have an idea of an understanding of. Certainly Black people do, because they've been celebrating Juneteenth for far longer than it's been a national holiday, federal holiday. But Juneteenth, for those of you who don't know, commemorates the day on June 19th, 1865, when the Union General read orders in Galveston, Texas, stating that all enslaved people there were free according to federal law, according to Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. I've said this time and time again over the last month or so, a presidential history nerd, an admitted nerd. And listen, I've said, and I've advertised it on the show before, but 2 years ago, me and my good buddy Isaac Lawson did a 10-part series on all U.S. presidents from Washington to, at that point, was a very early, about a year into Biden's administration. So talked about that. And then excluding Biden, because the current president is never ranked by historians, ranked every single U.S. president, top to bottom, 1 to, I guess that would have been 44, I guess, because Cleveland served twice and Biden wouldn't have been eligible. So yeah, 44. So yeah, definitely be sure to check that out. It's on my Carving Up playlist. But listen, Juneteenth is a crucially important date in American history, and I think great representation. I thought President Obama on social media, whether you agree with his policies or not, I thought he had a great quote about Juneteenth in his post today. He said, quote, Juneteenth is a commemoration of progress, but it's also a reminder that words on paper are not always enough, and that as far as we've come, we still have many miles to go in our march toward a more perfect union. So let's keep pushing, building on the work of the generations who came before us, and making sure that the arc of the morale universe continues to bend towards justice. That was President Obama, former President Obama, on social media earlier today, and I think that's a great way to put it. Like, this is a massive step, because the fact of the matter is, July 4th, not everybody was free. That doesn't mean we shouldn't celebrate July 4th, 1776, but we should also commemorate and acknowledge and celebrate June 19th, 1865. As a massive date in American history, a massive date for freedom in American history. And hey, isn't that the thing we all brag about and promote and celebrate as Americans, is the freedom that we get to do what we get to do as it pertains to basic human rights each and every day. And there's been multiple other dates throughout American history where that has finally been acknowledged far later than it should have been. June 19th, 1865 is one of them. So definitely wanted to take a moment to commemorate Juneteenth on this day in 2024. No question about it. Definitely wanted to acknowledge that. Let's see. John Rivera doesn't look like, I don't know if he tried to put an emoji or something, but for some reason it's not pulling up. But shout out to John. So we are, and I think Tim said he was referring to, in reference to what I was saying about the best champions over the last 5 years, the best teams of the last 5 years to win a championship. He says clearly the 2024 Celtics. I'll get into that in about a half hour. Rocky Top Watch is going on right now, and the Vols are up 6-2, I believe, going into the bottom. We just went to commercial break on ESPN into the bottom of the eighth inning. John Rivera says salute, no question about it. It's a huge day in American history, and it is kind of a shame that it took till just 3 years ago for it to be acknowledged as a federal holiday, and so. Definitely wanted to take a moment to looks like my mic dealing with some mic issues. Hang on, because my streaming service, my platform, just showed that it was dealing with some issues. So mic's back on. Let's talk about the team that lost the finals, the Dallas Mavericks. So here's the thing for Dallas. So Luka Doncic. And that's the story of Dallas. Because I think the knock on, based on let's just think about it this way. As far as our opinions on the Dallas Mavericks when the season started in October to now, I don't imagine for anybody in that team that we look at them as less than we looked at them coming into the season. There's some questions about Jason Kidd and some of the adjustments he made, timeouts. I mean, there was one in game 3. There was a timeout he took when Dallas was going on their crazy run when they were down 21, ended up cutting it to a 1-point game in game 3 in the fourth quarter, where he took a timeout in the middle of it. Luke was mad. I'm like, oh gosh, you just messed up the momentum. Like that's the only point in this series where I'm like, oh, Jason Kidd made a really critical error in that situation. Jason Kidd did a great job coaching this team. I thought the front office, Nico Harrison, did a fantastic job putting together, constructing a team at the deadline, bringing in PJ Washington, bringing in Daniel Gafford. The development of a kid I loved coming into last year's draft. Derek Lively II, out of Duke, was a critical piece of this basketball team. Kyrie Irving, listen, the struggles against Boston aside, that is clearly a thing, man. You look at his numbers in Dallas and in Boston, they are markedly different. That aside, I cannot see a universe in which I look at Kyrie Irving or anybody like myself who's been skeptical of Kyrie over the last 3 to 4 years could in any way, shape, or form look at him as lesser than now as we looked at him back in October. I just don't see that. Because back in October, it was, at least this is certainly how I viewed it, Kyrie is one of the most skilled players ever, and I said, even in my doubts of Kyrie, good Lord Almighty, does this guy not have the greatest handle in the history of the game of basketball? I believed it then. I certainly believe it now. But with the off-court distractions, with the increased, percentage chance of injury, increased rate of injury that we had seen over the last few years with him, could he be the second best player on a contending team? My belief was then, no. My belief is now, well, they got to a finals, so it's kind of hard to argue otherwise. It's hard to think of Kyrie lesser than now than we did then. For Luka Doncic, it's also much harder to look at Luka as lesser than now than we did then. I think Luka has, by virtue of his regular season performance, when I would have voted him second for MVP behind Jokic, and by virtue of another great playoff performance to get to the finals and at least get one game against a great Boston Celtics team, I think he has, for the moment, secured himself a spot as one of the 3 best players in basketball. In any order, and I'll rank my top 10 players in the NBA probably next week, because I always do top 10 players entering the playoffs, top 10 players exiting the playoffs. It looks very different. I think among the top 3 players in the world, Luka's in there along with Jokic and with Giannis. To me, those are absolutely the 3 best players in the NBA right now. However, there's no such thing as a perfect player. He or she does not exist. We can show you Luka Doncic's finals numbers and then try and kind of put them into context. So Luka's finals numbers, all stats provided by our friends at StatMuse, all graphics provided by my man Alfred Parsard Jr. Luka Doncic in the finals, 29-8. You can basically round that up to say 9. So say 29, 9 and 5, 47% from the field, rough percentages from 3 and from the free throw line, 24 from 3, and only 58% from the free throw line for Luka Doncic in this NBA Finals. So certainly not a bad series by any stretch of the imagination. A guy who darn near averages 30 did not have a bad finals. Here's the thing for Luka, though. And I talked about it after game 3 when he was barking at the officials, fouled out, played awful defense. I threw out the stat where he'd been blown by like 67% of the time as the primary defender, on-ball defender. Luka, I said it a week ago, I'll say it now, has a decision to make. There's always, for every player in their career, unless you are Magic Johnson and you win an NBA title in year 1 because you're maybe one of the greatest rookies ever, and you just so happen to have the best player in the world as your teammate, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Unless you're that, you're going to go through road bumps and go through trials to get to where you want to be as an NBA champion. Every champion has been through that. And every champion, every all-time great player who's had the long road to get to his championship had a crossroads point of his career where he had to choose one lane or the other. Michael Jordan was physically gifted, an all-time great athlete, certainly, but was not known for, in 1990 at least, his just raw physical strength. Just wasn't. And the 90s NBA was certainly trending. The 80s, the late 80s, early 90s Bad Boy Pistons kind of ushered it in. The sort of physical, you can do just about anything you want short of murder on the court. And not a lot of guys are going to be able to stand up to that. Michael wasn't able to in 1990 in the conference finals against the Pistons. He came back in the offseason, said he could have either said, you know what, I'm averaging 30 a game, 35 a game, winning MVPs, winning scoring titles. You know what? I'm going to stick with what got me there. Michael said, no. I'm going to get in the gym with my trainer, Tim Grover, bulk up tremendously this offseason, Oh, and also simultaneously buy into more of a team-oriented style of basketball with Phil Jackson, with Tex Winder, the triangle offense. And I'm going to, mess around and win 6 championships in 8 years and 6 finals MVPs. Jordan had a choice to make. The choice he ended up making and the road he ended up taking led him to arguably being the greatest player of all time. On the other side of that coin, a player not as great, I don't think a guy who's ever going to be as great as MJ was, but great in his own right, Russell Westbrook. Went to a finals with KD and Harden in 2012, had some top 5 MVP finishes. Beyond that, blew a 3-1 lead with Kevin Durant against the Warriors in 2016. KD leaves to join the Warriors. At that point, the Thunder are not a contender in that upcoming season. So what does Russ do? Well, I'm going to make the most out of it. I'm going to average a triple-double for the first time since Oscar Robertson did it in the 70s, win league MVP, have an amazing season, and get gentlemen swept in the first round by the undermanned Houston Rockets. At that point, Russell Westbrook had a choice to make. It is either I'm going to need to get another star teammate because he didn't have enough help in Oklahoma City in 2017. I'm going to need to get another star teammate, which he did, Paul George, and buy into, feed him the ball, get my own certainly, but kind of make Paul George, who's been to multiple conference finals with the Pacers for crying out loud, make him the central point of our offense. Or, man, this triple-double thing's awesome. I'm going to stick with this. And we were kind of left a little disappointed by what Russell Westbrook's career ended up being. While it's still great, while it's still got an MVP, while it's still going to be a first ballot Hall of Fame resume, no doubt about it, there's also the my mic there. If only he'd have bought into more a team-oriented style of basketball, which he ultimately did not do. Luka Doncic has that decision to make. And I have thrown out the stat time and time and time again. When Luka Doncic's usage rate this season is 30% or below, the Mavs are 10-0. They average 118 points per game, and they average giving up 108 points per game. In short, they're an excellent basketball team. Luka in this finals, and I've talked about it all throughout this series, didn't trust his teammates enough. Certainly didn't buy the defensive end of the floor, which he did at times in the Clippers series. I remember there was a game. My mic keeps giving me issues. I don't know what's up right now. Was phenomenal playing defense in that series. Didn't buy into that end of the floor and against the Boston Celtics in the finals. And what did they do as a result? They hunted Luka every single time down the floor. Tatum did, Brown did, Holiday did, White did, all of them. Where's Luke? Where's 77? Let's get him in the pick and roll. Let's expose him here. And that's what you got out of it. And so Luka's going to have to make a decision. Am I going to stick with what I'm doing, which, by the way, is getting me top 5 MVP finishes, is getting me to the NBA Finals? Or am I going to adjust to more? Because the Mavericks are an excellent team. I don't know if you heard, but there's a reason they're in the finals. It's not just Luka. This isn't LeBron in 2018 or LeBron in 2015 once Kyrie went down. He's got Kyrie Irving. He's got PJ Washington. He's got Daniel Gafford. He's got an ascending Derek Lively. The Mavs can make some tweaks this offseason, no question, but they're a really, really, really good basketball team. I need to trust my teammate. And by the way, with an excellent coach, I believe in Jason Kidd. I need to buy more into the defensive end, and I need to buy more. Yes, I'm the focal point of the offense, but I got a guy next to me, a co-star, who's when he gets the ball in his hands, man, he is magic with the basketball. Not Magic Johnson. I'm saying he is transcendent with his handle, with his shot in NBA history. We'll see what Luka does. And Luka, to his credit, after the game, talked about how I'm not in shape. I need to get in better shape. I need to make adjustments this offseason in order to put myself in position to be successful. We'll see. And Luka, we're now kind of watching Luka. Let's see if he's able to make those requisite adjustments to put himself in position to be a better basketball player moving forward and be more of a winning style of player moving forward. He's got the skills, the capabilities to do it. There's no question. He's got MVPs in his future. He's got scoring time. He's got all of those things. But are we going to see a different Luka next year moving forward? A lot of great players have had to tweak and adjust their game. LeBron had to do it. Michael had to do it. Steph Curry, greatest shooter ever. Second greatest to me right now, the second greatest point guard ever to Magic Johnson. But there's a point in Steph's career where he was amazing. He was winning 2 MVPs and he was winning championships. And he still said, man, Vols just hit a homer. Let's go. Man, I'm great, but I've got one big hole in my game. I'm kind of slight physically. Now, Steph had put on muscle from his rookie year to about 2019, but I remember the start of the 2020-21 season. Steph comes out like first game, I'm like, good. This guy's been in the gym. This guy's put on like legit, like guys actually ripped at this point. And Steph has been able to add a level of explosiveness. He's been able to finish at the rim better. So even the all-time legends, even the guys who have championships on their resume, still tweaked and added and adjusted and got better. Luka can. I believe he can. And he seemed to sort of acknowledge that after the game was over. And to his credit, while Luka was clearly beat up in the series, he's like, hey, I'm not going to, listen, no excuses. We lost this series. I didn't play well enough to win this series. I wasn't efficient enough. I was too ball dominant, and I didn't buy the defensive end of the floor. I got to be better. We'll see if he makes those adjustments moving forward, because if he does, he's going to be dangerous. He's going to be very dangerous. He's going to have championships potentially in his future, certainly MVPs in his future. And listen, he's a heck of a player, top 3 in the world, I believe, but there does need to be some key adjustments in order for him to put himself in position to be a multi-time championship player. And right now, because of the flaws in his game, he's not yet. He can. We'll see if he makes those adjustments. Let's see. Patrick Brown is in the comments. Celtics believed in their young core of Jaylen and Jason. Credit to Brad Stevens. Much as it pains me as a Lakers fan, credit is deserved. And he also says Luka giving a more collective effort on defense would be beneficial. We all know he can score, but his defense needs to vastly improve. Again, nobody's asking Luka to be, I keep using this example, but to be Gary Payton or to be Tony Allen, who again, personally, he doesn't have the accolades of a Gary Payton. I personally believe Tony Allen's the greatest guard defender 6'3" or below in NBA history. I think the guy, you can't shut down the great players. You can make it really hard on him. Kobe Bryant would tell you that. Kevin Durant would tell you that. Steph Curry would tell you that. Like, Tony Allen was amazing. Nobody's asking Luka to be that. Nobody, because the fact of the matter is, if he is that, it's going to take away from his offense. And nobody wants that because he's a transcendent offensive player. But at least because he's big, he's strong, he can move his feet quickly. We saw him put Rudy Gobert on skates in Game 2 of the conference finals. He's got the footwork and the overall just natural strength to be a solid, not even good, a solid defensive player, as opposed to a guy where Boston is just hunting him down. It almost got painful to watch at one point. Tatum's like, hey, where's Luka? Let's get into the pick and roll. Derek White's going right by him. Derek White's a good, sort of driver and a slasher to the basket. It just goes right by Luka. So that's going to be something he's going to have to adjust and get better at moving forward. I think he can. I think he's that great of a player, but as of right now, he's just not right there right now. So that's to be key for him. Also, because I'm about to talk about Tatum and Brown, and on Rocky Top Watch, the Tennessee Volunteers have a 7-2 lead over the Florida State Seminoles. Top of the 9th inning, 2 outs. Tennessee's the road team, by the way. So this isn't like one more out and it's over. So 2 outs here and just a foul ball left side. Looks like the Vols are going to be in position here on Rocky Top Watch, here on Carving Up Live, literally live reaction to advance to the College World Series final. That will be a pretty cool moment, unless they pull off the all-time collapse in the 9th inning, which I do not anticipate with their improved pitching. It appears there's a pop-up shallow center, and that's going to be out number 3. So Tennessee is in position. 3 more outs to the Men's College World Series final, baby. Let's go. And we're going to celebrate in requisite fashion. Make sure I got my speaker. Oh, my speaker's ready to go. Let's get my speaker ready to play Rocky Top and to celebrate Tennessee getting to the final. Yeah, I want to make sure that's ready to go. That's what I'm talking about. Real quick, as Tennessee's getting ready to celebrate, or be put in position to celebrate, let's talk about Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. So Jaylen Brown won Finals MVP. There's 11 people who vote for Finals MVP in the NBA media. He won by a final vote of 7 to Jason Tatum's 4 votes. And we can show you their numbers in this series. And one might ask, well, why was Tatum MVP? Tatum averaged more points, more rebounds, more assists, although Brown averaged more steals, more blocks, shot a better percentage from the field, although Tatum, while they were both awful from three. 23% from Brown, 26% for Tatum. Tatum did, for what it's worth, shoot better from three-point range. But Brown wins Finals MVP, and I agree with it. Because my viewpoint of the Finals MVP, particularly in a short series, which this was a gentleman's sweep. I am of the mindset that in a 5-game sample size, for MVP, it's different. You play, I mean, the NBA put the rule in, you got to play at least 65 games. So you have a big sample size to judge like 3 MVP finals by. NBA Finals is a lot tougher. One game could be very different from the next. You get the picture. 5 games to decide to decide between Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And here's what I know. In Game 1, Jaylen Brown led the Boston Celtics in scoring. He was the best defensive player in that game, I believe. Porzingis was great in that game, but I thought Jaylen Brown played great overall individual perimeter defense in that basketball game. Well, Tatum struggled badly from the field against the Boston Celtics in Game 1. So Jaylen was better than Tatum in Game 1. In Game 2, Jaylen Brown was better than Jason Tatum on the defensive end, and in large part on the offensive end. There was a sort of sense of hesitancy from Tatum as opposed to Jaylen Brown, who shot a better percentage from the field, 8 for 15, and scored 21, as opposed to Tatum, 6 for 22, and scoring 18 points in that basketball game. In Game 3, Tatum scores 31, plays excellent on the offensive end, although an inefficient offensive game. But if you remember, Dallas Mavericks make the furious fourth quarter run, make it a very, very interesting basketball game. Boston Celtics have a lead in that game, 100-98 after a Derek Lively dunk. And what does Jaylen Brown do on the other end? Hits a fadeaway jump shot, and the Celtics win Game 3 and basically wrap the series up. Now in Game 4, now Tatum and Brown, neither were good. No Boston Celtics was good in Game 4. Game 5, different story. Jason Tatum drops 31. But I believe Brown's defense, Brown's clutch shot making, and overall consistency in this series warrants him being the MVP. It reminded me a lot, to a greater degree than this. It reminded me of another short NBA Finals, 2018, involving my Golden State Warriors. So Kevin Durant won the NBA Finals MVP in that series because he averaged more points than Steph. As far as I know, more rebounds than Steph. Assists, I think it was pretty close between the two. KD probably averaged more assists in that series as well. You're like, well, duh, of course KD's Finals MVP. Here's the thing. Steph, just ask Ty Lue, head coach of the Clippers, who was the head coach of the Cavs at the time. Ty Lue will swear to you, our defensive focus, as great as Kevin Durant is, it's geared toward number 30. Because if 30 goes off, it's over. Because the spread, everybody else gets to space the floor. Clay gets off. KD gets off. If Steph gets going, it's over. Especially for an undermatched Cavs team in 2018. And yet, Steph Curry was, by the numbers, unequivocally better than KD in Game 1. In Game 2, he broke the finals record for threes made in a game. Unequivocally better than KD in Game 2. Now, KD was unequivocally better than Steph in Game 3 because he dropped 43. Steph, I think, barely dropped double digits. That might have been what convinced voters for whatever reason. But in Game 4, while KD has a 20-point triple-double, Steph drops 37. Steph, in my view, on a game-by-game basis, should have been Finals MVP in 2018. That's kind of what this reminds me of. I think the voters got it right. And the thing is, for Jason Tatum, this is a guy who has I've been a Tatum guy for years. This is a back-to-back 3-time first-team All-NBA guy. I believe only Giannis and Luka. Jokic may have done it. Giannis and Luka can say that they have done that. So he's in an elite class in that regard. He's really good on the defensive end. Some of his greatest games in the postseason have come when the Celtics had their back against the wall. I remind you of Game 6 against the Bucks 2 years ago in the second round. Down 3-2, and he drops 46 points. I remind you of the fourth quarter, Game 6 last year, second round, Philadelphia 76ers. Jason Tatum is having a dreadful shooting performance and then goes berserk in the fourth quarter. I believe scores 12 points in the fourth quarter to pull the Celtics out of that game, and then casually goes on to drop 51 in a do-or-die Game 7 in Boston. So Tatum's best, and he had a 30-point game, I believe, in Game 7 against the Heat 2 years ago to get into the finals. So Tatum has been great, and I still am a Tatum fan. The thing I think at this point, for a guy of Tatum's caliber, because champion, hey, check. No worries about that now. He's an NBA champion for the rest of time. Now I think the question for Tatum, we know, I think I'd say if you polled 100 people on who the best player in the Celtics is, I'd say about 75 to 80 of those people would say Tatum's the best player on the team with respect to Jaylen Brown, who is excellent, but I don't believe is better than Tatum. And I don't think he's shown himself to be better than Tatum over particularly the last 3 years. So Tatum has proved I can be the best player on a team that wins in the NBA Finals. Like that's undeniable. The next step for me with Tatum, can I be the best player on a team that wins the NBA Finals and have a great series? Because the fact of the matter is, yes, we don't have a graphic for this, but we do have Tatum's finals numbers. I believe we can pull this up here. His career finals numbers. I have it in my notes. If I can pull this up. Okay, Tatum in the finals. So he's played 11 NBA Finals games in his career. He averages 21, 7, and 7 in the finals. So, on its face, pretty good until you look at the shooting percentages. 37% from the field, 36% from three, including, by the way, as far as the shooting percentages. He's played 11 NBA Finals games, even including the other night, Monday night, Game 5, championship clinching win. He has never once in those 11 games shot over 50%. He's never done it. So the lack of efficiency, the hesitancy at times in driving the basket, the jump shots look, I don't want to say half-hearted because that's not fair. It's not half-hearted shots, but almost unsure of himself type shots as it pertains to his body language. That's the next step for Tatum. Like, we know you can be the best player on a great team that wins the championship. We've seen Jokic go berserk in the finals. We've seen Steph go up berserk in the finals. We've seen Giannis do that. We've seen LeBron and AD do that. We've seen Kawhi do it. Guys that some people have questions about. AD, Kawhi, they've been great in the finals. Tatum's far more durable than both. That's the next step. Boston is the favorites to win the title next year. Should be, in my opinion, the favorites to win the Eastern Conference. No question. Like I don't think a soul will be surprised if we see the Celtics back in this position to win another championship number 19 in 2025. But the question going into that series for Boston, can Tatum win a finals? Done. Never have to worry about that again. Can he be the best player? Or sorry, not the best player. Can he have a great series where we go in, it's like, duh, Tatum's absolutely finals MVP with a Celtics win? That's the next question. And by the way, I don't even view that as a knock. Like, if that's the next question for Tatum, it's pretty good. Now, you could question, hey, is he winning league MVP? But I think last I checked the voting, Tatum did finish top 5 for MVP this season. So we've seen him have great individual performances really throughout his entire career up until the finals. It's just those 11 games, for whatever reason, whether it's the bright lights, but one can imagine if he gets to his third finals, hey, I've been here. I won one, I lost one. I've been here. I've done that. I understand the pressure and the pomp and circumstance that comes with playing in the biggest series in professional basketball in a calendar year. So kudos to Tatum. I do think Brown deserved MVP for the finals. He was more consistent over the course of the 5 games. I thought made bigger plays and made a bigger impact as time went on. So shout out to Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. NBA champions, Jaylen Brown, a deserved finals MVP. I'm almost out of water here, but we are on Rocky Top Watch in between segments. So we're in the bottom of the 9th inning. My Vols have a 7-2 lead. Here we go. Okay, fouled away. So here's the situation. Tennessee's up 7-2, bottom of the 9th. Runner on first, 1 out. It's an 0-2 count. Just for the record, so for those of you that may just be tuning in, I'm a big Vols fan. I've got a t-shirt from when they won the SEC title in 2022. And so I've never seen 0-2 pitch. This one's popped up. Looks like Tennessee's going to be an out away here. Popped up to short. 2 gone. Tennessee Volunteers are a single out away from the Men's College World Series, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I have never in my life as a Vols fan witnessed a championship from any of the major, because listen, no, all due respect, I don't follow Tennessee rowing because they do have a rowing team or swimming. But I've never seen Tennessee baseball, football, men's basketball, women's basketball won in my lifetime, but I don't remember that when I was a kid. Swing and a miss on the first pitch. Okay, let me dial up Rocky Top because this is going to be a fun celebration here for all of you who are watching this. Make sure I got my, okay, so speakers on. Here we go. 0-1 count. Pitch, swing and a miss. So here we go. Tennessee Vols are a strike away from the Men's College World Series on Rocky Top Watch. Here we go. Suspending the show for just a second. We'll get to whatever the next topic is. Here we go. 0-2 count. Here comes the pitch. Outside, ball 1. Okay. Let's see if we can get him chasing. Here we go. Tennessee's up 7-2 in the 9th inning. Chance to go to the Men's College World Series Final. Win their first championship in baseball history. Here we go. 1-2 count. Here comes the pitch. And it's fouled away left side. All right. Just extending this as long as we can. I've never done anything like this on Carving Up Live before. A live reaction to a game. I've done live reactions to NFL, NBA drafts, and we'll be doing that next week with Mike Guido. But I've never done anything like this. Okay, 1-2 count. Here comes the pitch. And, oh, that looks like strike 3. Ball 2. Okay. Looks like we were about to celebrate there. It's all right. It's all right. Just extend the drama. Okay. Here we go. 2-2 count. Let's go to the World Series Final, baby. Here we go. 2-2 count. Here comes the pitch. And fouled away again. Man, they are really making this tough. They're really just extending Carving Up Live right now on Rocky Top Watch. Man, I'll tell you, this is exciting stuff right here. Tennessee with a chance to go to the College Baseball World Series Final. Man, I'm nervous as a Tennessee fan right now. I know what's going to happen, but I'm excited to celebrate. Here comes the pitch, and ball 3 again. Or not ball 3 again, another ball. Now it's ball 3. So it's 0-2 count. Now it's 3-2 right now, and guy just stole second base. So here we go. So 3-2 count, full count, 2 outs. Tennessee a strike away from the College World Series. Here comes the pitch, and that is an out. Tennessee wins it, and they are advancing to the College Baseball World Series Final. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Tennessee is headed to the championship round. Here we go. There we go. Let's go. Ball's advancing, baby. Play that Rocky Top. Play that Rocky Top. I apologize to all the non-Tennessee fans right now, but the Tennessee Volunteers baseball team is headed to the national championship game, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! Rocky Top Watch concludes in beautiful fashion. Let's go. Rocky Top Watch. Tennessee. National championship, baby. Let's go. You know what? We'll let it get to the main Rocky Top so we can sing it, and then we'll move on with Carving Up Live because I know everybody wants to hear my take on the Celtics, but here we go. National championship, baby. Let's go. Here it comes, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, you can sing it with me, even if you're not a Tennessee fan. Rocky Top. Let's go. Here we go. Rocky Top, you'll always be home, sweet home to me. Here we go. Good old Rocky Top. Woo! Rocky Top, Tennessee. That's what I'm talking about. That's that volunteer pride live on Carving It Up. Man, it's a dope feeling. Listen, man, again, diehard Vols fan, football, men's basketball, women's basketball, baseball, softball, the whole bit. And the Tennessee Volunteers are natty bound, baby. National championship, which I believe game 1 is Saturday. Is it Saturday? Let me check and see when that is. Yep, it'll be Sunday. I apologize. Sunday at 2 p.m. on ABC. That is Saturday, 7:30 p.m. on ESPN. Tennessee will meet either Texas A&M or Florida. Let me tell you something. Can you imagine? If Tennessee gets an opportunity to bring a natty home against those gosh darn Florida Gators? Oh, come on. Come on now. Let's go. Vols are going to the natty, baby. Let's go. Rocky Top Watch concludes in beautiful fashion. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Patrick Brown, that has to be included in NCAA college football. You talking about Rocky Top? Oh, I'm sure it will be. I'm sure it will be. And by the way, Patrick, I don't know if you follow college baseball. I know you're a big Seminoles guy. Seminoles, Florida State Seminoles, and Michigan Wolverines. So, listen, yeah, Rocky Top. There you go. Oh, Rocky Top's going to be in the game. It's going to be in the game. No question. But listen, I don't know if you follow college baseball that much, because I know you're a Florida State guy and a Michigan guy. But listen, Florida State had a great season. They gave us a heck of a push on Friday when Tennessee pulled off an insane ninth inning rally to win that ball game. But man, oh man, what a night! Great night for Tennessee sports. Great night for Vol sports. And the Tennessee Volunteers are 1-2 wins away from bringing a national championship to the great city of Knoxville, Tennessee. Let's go. Listen, at this point, honestly, A&M and Florida play. I think it says it's 7. They'll probably be playing a little later than that. I am legitimately pulling for Florida. It's one thing to beat Texas A&M for a national title. That's another SEC school. You beat Florida. You beat the Gators for the national title. Oh, my goodness. Listen, Tim Barnard, who's going live in about 10 minutes to talk about his Celtics, shout out to Tim, is a massive Florida fan. I believe he might actually went to Florida, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to have to put a wager on this College World Series. We're going to have to put something on it. And I don't know, Tim may have to come in to carving up and sing Rocky Top or something. I may have to do like the Gator chomp on his show. We'll have to do something. But a Grid Network wager is on the way if Florida beats Texas A&M to meet Tennessee, the Tennessee Vols in the national championship. But Tennessee, let's go. Again, apologize for the little break in between the action for the carving up live topics, but Rocky Top watch. There you go. So Texas A&M, Florida. Now, is that a do or die game for both teams? It says that first pitch is at 7:55 Eastern on ESPN. So is that the winner of that game play? Okay, so I think the situation is if A&M wins, they advance. I could be wrong on this, but I think if A&M wins, they advance. If Florida wins, there's another game tomorrow, and the winner of that one plays Tennessee on Saturday night for Game 1 of the College Baseball World Series National Championship. Let's go. Let's go, Vols, baby. Christian Moore, Tony Vitello. I got to meet briefly Tony Vitello, the head coach of the Tennessee Vols baseball team. Cool dude, fantastic manager, has a heck of a baseball team. So Tennessee, the Natty. All right, enough talking about Tennessee, even though I'm going to be doing it a lot over the next few days. Let's go, Vols, baby. All right, let's go back to Boston. So the Celtics, NBA champions. So a big discussion, at least ESPN posed it this morning or last night. I think it was last night on social media. They posed the question. Okay, let's start because we're basically in the midst of the 2020s. Half the decade has won its championships, right? We've had 5 NBA champions in the 2020s. And where do they rank? So you got 2020 LA Lakers, who beat the Blazers in round 1 in 5 games. They beat the Rockets in round 2 in 5 games. They beat the Nuggets in the conference finals in 5 games. And they beat the Heat in the NBA finals in 6 games. You have the 2021 Bucks, who swept the Miami Heat in round 1, who won in 7 games against the Nets in round 2, who beat the Hawks in 6 games in the conference finals, and who beat the Suns in 6 games in the NBA finals. My 2022 Golden State Warriors beat the Nuggets in 5 games in the first round, beat the Grizzlies in 6 games in the second round, beat the Mavericks in 5 games in the conference finals, beat the Celtics in 6 games in the NBA finals. Last year's Nuggets beat the Timberwolves in 5 games in the first round, beat the Suns in 6 games in the second round, swept the Lakers in the conference finals, and then beat the Heat in 5 games in the NBA finals. Then there's your Celtics. Beat the Heat in 5 games in the first round, beat the Cavs in 5 games in the second round, swept the Pacers in the conference finals, and then beat the Mavericks in 5 games in the NBA finals. So that's kind of the summary of it. I think if we're going to talk about the best, because to me, there's a different conversation to be had that I'm going to pose in just a second, or a different question to pose that I will in just a moment. If we're talking about the best teams, we're talking about regular season playoffs, we're combining all of it. The best teams. Put up the list. This is where I think it ranks. The Celtics, this year Celtics are on top. They won 64 games. Statistically, they had the most efficient offense in NBA history. They were top 2, the second best team defensively in the regular season, and they never faced a game 6 in these playoffs. They swept the Pacers, never even saw game 5 in that series, and the rest of their series, first round, second round in NBA finals, never went to a game 6. 2023 Nuggets, the only time they were pushed to 6 were by the Suns, but if you actually watch that series, Phoenix got absolutely run off the court in games 5 and 6. And again, took care of Minnesota 5 games, swept the Lakers, swept LeBron James and Anthony Davis, swept them. There's something to be said for that. And then took care of a Miami Heat team that, took out the 1-seed Bucks, took out the 2-seed Celtics. Denver took care of them like that in 5 games. 2020 Lakers, I've got at 4. So that Portland team, and we'll show it in just a second, the resumes. That Portland team in the first round, under 500. That Rockets team, the second round. Playoff Harden, playoff Westbrook. You should win that series. Conference finals to beat the Nuggets in 5 games. That's very impressive. Jokic and Murray. That was their first deep playoff run, and to beat the Miami Heat in 6 games in the NBA Finals. I've got the Bucks at the bottom for this reason and this reason only. I think of those teams, because I do factor in coaching, I think the 2021 Bucks in that list absolutely have the worst coach. I would take Joe Mazzulla, Mike Malone, Steve Kerr, and Frank Vogel over Mike Budenholzer any day of the week. There were multiple series that Milwaukee could have won way quicker than they did. That the series that lasted way longer than they should have. I think that Bucks team was a very good team that had an excellent number 2 in Drew Holiday and an awesome all-time great in Giannis leading the group. Which, listen, if we're talking about the last 5 years, the Bucks being the worst NBA champion, that's like saying who's the poorest billionaire. Like it's you still won the championship. There are worse situations to be in. Ask the Detroit Pistons, who just fired Monty Williams today. So, of the best teams in the last 5 years to win a championship, I've got Boston, Denver, Golden State, Lakers, Bucks. To me, a conversation that needs to be asked or had. What's the most impressive run to win the NBA Finals? And I would adamantly pose that it's the 2022 Golden State Warriors. Like, Bryson, the Warriors homer strikes again. Let's use some data and let's use some facts and let's use some evidence on our side. We're going to go championship by champion. So we're going to go 2020 Lakers to 2024 Celtics, okay? So let's put up, do we have the Lakers? There they are, okay. Here are the Lakers' playoff opponents. First round, Portland Trail Blazers were 4 games under 500. Second round, Rockets, but that was playoff Harden and Russell Westbrook, who we know is very inefficient in the playoffs. Conference finals, Denver. Now I give them massive credit for being that Denver team, because that Denver team had come back from 2 3-1 deficits, only team to ever do that in NBA history, in the same postseason. The Lakers said, the heck with you guys, we're going to get rid of y'all in 5 games. In the NBA Finals, they beat a very good Miami Heat team. Let's go to the Bucks. They took care of Miami, 8 games over 500, won a dogfight 7-game series against the Brooklyn Nets in round 2, beat the Atlanta Hawks, led by Trae Young, who actually ended up missing 2 of the last 3 games of that series. So like Atlanta, And then they beat the Phoenix Suns in the NBA Finals. They were down 2-0 in that series, came back, won the last 4 to win that series. I'll skip the Warriors to go to the Denver Nuggets. Do we have Denver's resume on the docket right now? Okay, for some reason. Here's Denver. Last year. Beat the Timberwolves, 2 games over 500. Beat the Suns, who won 45 games. Beat the Lakers, who won 43 games. And then beat the Heat, who won 44 games. So one thing for Denver here, I think they have the least impressive run as a team. Least impressive run because every single one of their playoff opponents, none of them got to 50 wins. One of them got to 45 wins. And then finally, this year Celtics, then we'll move to the Golden State Warriors of 2022. So this year Celtics beat the 46-win Heat, the 48-win Cavs, 47-win Pacers, and the 50-win Mavs. They got the 150-win team on the resume. Like, that's the thing I was talking about a lot with Boston throughout the playoffs, and even when they swept Indiana. It's like, best player in all their first 3 playoff opponents got hurt. To which I would say, yes, but if they beat a fully healthy Mavs team, given who Dallas went through, it doesn't matter who they beat. Shows me they would have beaten any of those teams when they were healthy. Which I'm not saying Miami would have beaten Boston with Jimmy. Like, I don't think that happened, but you get what I'm saying here. So it validates those other 3 playoff series wins. Not that they were invalidated by any stretch of the imagination, but it gives them more credibility as it pertains to Boston's overall run. Let's look now at the 2022 Golden State Warriors run, because they went through an absolute gauntlet to win a championship. Let's put it up right here. Their worst playoff opponent won 48 games in the Denver Nuggets in the first round. The worst team I thought they played, of those 4, the worst team, I believe, was the Memphis Grizzlies, who won 56 games, who they beat in the second round. Conference finals. Luka had Jaylen Brunson. At Mavs team, Luka Doncic to Jaylen Brunson. 52 wins. Golden State gentlemen swept them. And the NBA Finals, a series in which the Celtics were given an 87, 88, 80-something% chance to win by ESPN's analytic department. 51 wins. Golden State beat them too. Now you say, well, hang on a second, Bryson. If the Golden State Warriors went through the hardest road to get to their title of the last 5 champions, why do you only have them third in your list? It's quite simple. 2 words. Steph Curry. Is that, the more time goes on, is that 2022 title not aging like fine wine? So you think about the opponents and the best player on those teams. Jokic, Ja, Luka, Tatum. Jokic, I think, is not universally considered this, but I think I'd say the majority of NBA fans consider Nikola Jokic to be the best player in basketball. So that's who the Warriors beat in round 1. Ja, who hasn't played much because of injury and suspension in the last year and a half, we know the talent that he is. Now, he missed the last 3 games of that series, so that should be taken into account. Although Memphis was actually better that year when Ja was out of the lineup, that's beside the point. Luka Doncic, I believe to be one of the 3 best players in the world. Minimum, okay, let's not even talk about an opinion thing. He just led a team in the NBA Finals. Golden State almost swept him. And he had Jaylen Brunson. We saw Jaylen Brunson this year. And then the NBA Finals. Now, that Celtics team obviously was not this year's Celtics team because they didn't have Jrue Holiday, they didn't have Kristaps Porzingis, but they did have Tatum, they did have Brown, they did have Derek White, they had Robert Williams, who was a good player on that team. Al Horford was closer to his prime then than he is now. And some will still argue that the Celtics had a better coach then in Ime Udoka than they do now in Joe Mazzulla. Meanwhile, talk about all those great players, those great opponents the Warriors played. All 3 of the 4 opponents were 50-win teams. The only non-50-win team was a 48-win team. Steph Curry on his team had Klay Thompson off 2 injuries, a declining Klay. We see where Klay is now. Andrew Wiggins, who was an all-star that year, but has never even come close to making it. Now, Wiggins had a great playoff run. I don't want to poo-poo his playoff run. But Andrew Wiggins, think about the second best player on those finals teams. Anthony Davis for the Lakers. Jrue Holiday for the Bucks. Last year, Jamal Murray with the Nuggets. And then Jaylen Brown. I believe Jaylen Brown's second best player in the Celtics. Jaylen Brown to Jason Tatum for Boston. Steph Curry's second best player was Andrew Wiggins in 2022. Jordan Poole was a viable offensive option on those 2022 Warriors. Now, he's the worst contract in the league. Steph Curry took that, beat a 48-win team, a 56-win team, a 52-win team, and a 51-win team with those squads led by Jokic, Ja, Luka, Tatum, and won the freaking championship. So if we're talking the best team, 24 Celtics, of the last 5 champions, 24 Celtics to me have the spot at the top. Best run, most impressive run, given the circumstances, given the context of what Steph had versus what he was going up against. It's Steph Curry, and it's the 2022 Warriors. I don't think it's close. With respect to the Lakers bubble run, which people try to discredit, it's a Mickey Mouse ring. No. The bubble, ask any players in the bubble. That was no fun. It was no fun. 21 bucks. Had to go through KD, had to go through some great players. Chris Paul in the finals, Devin Booker. But they beat Trae Young, who actually missed some games in that series in the conference finals. Who am I missing? Denver. Did not be a single 50-win team in their own title. Now, that's not their fault, but we're just talking about who's more impressive. 2022 Warriors, and it's obvious over the last 5 years had the most impressive championship run. No question about it. Patrick, 2020 Lakers. Degree of difficulty in a global pandemic, being away from family in Orlando, plus the untimely tragedy of Kobe and Gigi. Everyone can say what they want, but it's still a championship. Oh, it's definitely still a championship. Anybody that tries to act like that it is somehow lesser than and, it doesn't count. It not only does it count, it's one of the most difficult titles that we've seen in the modern NBA because of there's no home games. Well, no road games. There was also no home games. These players, think about the Lakers in particular. They're from Los Angeles. They're playing in Orlando. For 3 months, had to be away from their families for the majority of it. Couldn't sleep in their own beds for 3 months. Now, again, to the average person, it's like, well, yeah, it's a brutal problem to have. Yeah, obviously in the scheme of the world. Of course, there are worse problems to have, but as it pertains to a basketball context, that's tough, man. That's really tough. And so as far as degree of difficulty, Patrick, I put 2020 Lakers number 2. But, you know, for what there was in how do I word this? For what there was in external difficulty with the pandemic, with the bubble, with all of those things, the Warriors made up for that in their playoff opponents relative to the Lakers' playoff performances, or playoff opponents, rather. Like, that to me is the key in all of this. And so, like, I'm telling you, man, not just because of who they beat, but because of who was on that team and where they are now. That 2022 Warriors team, that I already thought then that was the absolute, no question, put Steph in the top 10 of all time. Looking back now, he took Wiggins and aging Clay and Jordan Poole and won a darn championship with Draymond Green, who was still very good. Did get to the Western Conference Finals, won the championship. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Matter of fact, it's all-time stuff, and it's one of the reasons why I think Steph is, like, among all-time players, there's 5 guys I can definitively put above Steph Curry right now as we sit here today. In this order, from 1 to 5. LeBron, MJ, Kareem, Kobe, Magic. And he is on Magic's heels. Because as great as Magic was, and I don't want to ever take credit away from the great Magic Johnson, it didn't hurt that he had the all-time leading scorer for all 5 of his championships. And for most of those titles, Kareem was in his prime. Or at least was still really, 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 really good. Steph and KD, and they were the greatest team ever. Like, he gives Steph, forget Kareem, give him KD, and they're unstoppable. They would lose 1 game in the whole playoffs in 2017. I'm just saying. So some folks may want to look at that as like a pro Steph Curry statement and anti. No. Saying anti anything. This is let's look at the historical context of what we're seeing. And I'm glad ESPN posed a question because it's a good one. Because I think Boston's the best team in the last 5 years among champions. Golden State had the most impressive run. Those to me are 2 separate conversations. All right. Last topic before we get out of here on more of a somber note. We have lost a lot of legends lately. I've been doing more tributes to the deceased than I'm comfortable with. But Bill Walton passed 2 weeks ago. Jerry West passed last week, and we had another legend pass yesterday, a man by the name of Willie Mays. Willie Mays, who was, without question, no doubt one of the 5 best baseball players ever. You can make a strong case for the 3 best and maybe the best. Willie Mays passed away yesterday at the age of 93, and I would give a special shout out to Alfred Parslow Jr., who's as big of a baseball fan as I am. He's a bigger fan than me, and he puts together the graphics for the show. And he put together, I thought, a great graphic of Willie Mays with his stats, with his accomplishments. But also, I thought it was great if we could pull this up here of the Willie Mays graphic that Alfred put together. Because the fact of the matter is, we think about Willie Mays primarily with the San Francisco Giants, and then he has that last run there at the end with the New York Mets. But he also played for the Birmingham Black Barons. Like, that was his first team. He played in the Negro Leagues, and obviously a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, Negro League stats were were integrated with Major League stats, which gave actually Willie Mays an extra 8 hits. So actually bolstered his legacy in a minor way. But you look at Willie Mays' resume: 24-time All-Star, second all-time. 1944 World Series champion, 2-time National League MVP, 12-time Gold Glove Award winner, 1951 NL Rookie of the Year, 1954 batting champ. He's a 4-time National League home run leader and a 4-time National League stolen base leader. This is a guy who was, in every possible sense of the word, a true legend. And you know what's interesting when we talk about the debate of the greatest baseball player, because we don't have those debates like we do greatest quarterback ever, although it's, for a while, it looked like it wasn't ever going to be a debate after Tom got to ring 7. Mahomes, while he's still got a ways to go, looks to be potentially, in 2 to 3 years, making that a reasonable conversation to have. And obviously basketball, we'll be talking about LeBron and Jordan until Jesus comes. Like, that's just the reality. We don't talk about it as much in baseball, though, because you could talk about, it's hard to judge it because you have pitching and the invaluable position on a team that is. But you're talking about the greatest hitters, like a Barry Bonds, like a Ken Griffey. Willie Mays certainly on the defensively was amazing, was a great hitter as well.
And the fact of the matter is this: if you talk about the greatest players ever, I would make a case that it is the easiest. Willie Mays is the easiest route to go, and this matters as far as the case for the best player ever. Because if you think about Babe Ruth, the thing with Babe Ruth is, A, there was no black players at that point in Major League Baseball, and B, he was, and this is credit to Babe, by the way, was so far ahead of everybody else when it came to the home run ball. Had the effect of baseball that Steph Curry had in the NBA. Maybe more so, because that was the dead ball era. Babe Ruth hitting 50 jacks a year, changed the game, held the home run record, obviously, until the late, great Hank Aaron broke it decades and decades later. So no black players, and the era of baseball, Babe, again, this is even a detriment to him, was so far ahead of everybody else when it came to the home run ball that it wasn't even a contest. So that's almost a credit to him. Ken Griffey I think, had the most beautiful swing of any player I've ever seen in my life. But injuries kind of robbed him of what we thought he could have been. So it's, yeah, but the injuries. Babe Ruth, it's, yeah, but it was only white players, and the league hadn't quite caught up to where it was going, where he was directing it to go. A guy like a Barry Bonds, who I will fight till my dying breath for guys like him and great players who happen to use steroids that absolutely should be in the Hall of Fame. I think it is a crime that they're not. But that is part of the story with Barry Bonds, is that he did use steroids. Now, he was great before that, which is why I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. But the steroid thing, that happened. As great a hitter as Barry Bonds was, one of the 5 best baseball players ever in my mind, the steroid thing is a little bit of a cloud. There is no cloud for Willie Mays. You talk about a guy who, by the way, could have put up even more great statistics and overall numbers. But he missed 2 years to serve in the war at that time. So you talk about a guy who, it's a little Roger Staubach-esque, right? If you're going to use an NFL example, or even like Ted Williams, same thing for my Red Sox back in the day, where you have a guy who's could have easily stacked up potentially more All-Star appearances, more MVPs, maybe another championship, who knows? But serve his country at the highest level. And so, if you want to make a case for Willie Mays as the greatest player ever, it's easier to do so for him than anybody else. That doesn't necessarily mean he is, but it is easier to make the case. Let's just put up his resume one more time, folks. This is a legend that we lost yesterday. 24-time All-Star. That's second all-time. 1954 World Series champion, 2-time National League MVP, 12-time Gold Glove Award winner, 1951 NL Rookie of the Year, 1954 batting champ, 4-time NL home run leader, and 4-time NL stolen base leader. And of course, the Say Hey Kid made the catch, the greatest catch in the history of Major League Baseball, over his head as a member of the San Francisco Giants. I believe, was that in the 1954 World Series? I believe it was. Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, it was 1954 in that World Series that the Giants won. So, listen, man, we have lost too many legends for my liking. Bill Walton 2 weeks ago, Jerry West last week, and the great Willie Mays yesterday. He will be sorely missed, but prayers go to his family, to his loved ones, and one of the greatest passes away yesterday at the age of 93. Willie Mays, man, Say Hey Kid. He was different. He was special. So the comments. Patrick Brown, and this is really interesting. Patrick says, San Francisco and St. Louis are set to play in Birmingham. It will be a very emotional series for sure. The timing of it is, I hate to say story, but because we're talking about a guy who passed away. But it is, I need a drink of water here. It's actually kind of not odd, but almost kind of beautiful in a way, Patrick. I'm glad you bring that up. Where the San Francisco Giants, who Willie Mays obviously spent the majority of his career with, and obviously they're playing the St. Louis Cardinals, are playing in Birmingham. When is first pitch for that game? That's a 7:15 on Fox at Rickwood Field in Birmingham, Alabama, which is where Willie Mays started his career. And it was initially meant, and still is obviously meant, to celebrate the Negro Leagues and to celebrate their impact on the game of baseball. But now is going to take on a whole different meaning with, ironically, the Giants play, which maybe very well, I think my guess is they would have put in the Giants because of Willie Mays and then put in the Cardinals. Oh my gosh, who was the guy that played for the Cardinals? It's going to drive me crazy. Was it Bob Gibson? I think it was Bob Gibson who played for the I think that's who it was, who played in the Negro Leagues and played for the Cardinals once he joined Major League Baseball. And so putting those teams in it. And so with the passing of Willie Mays, who played for Birmingham, they're now playing in Birmingham tomorrow with the team that Willie Mays was a legend with, primarily in his career, the San Francisco Giants. Wow, like that is, you're right. It will be a very emotional series. And Patrick says they'll play they'll play a 3-game series this week and later on in the season. I mean, that is, how about that? That's something else. That is something else. Yeah, okay, yeah, Patrick. Bob Gibson, yep, played in the Negro Leagues and in Major League Baseball. Yeah, it is like the fact that we lost, and that was something that I thought was really great to see when they integrated Negro League stats into Major League Baseball stats, was the fact that at that point, obviously, Willie Mays was still with us. So the fact that we did this while he was still alive, and I imagine he enjoyed it and appreciated it, is awesome. But it also goes to show, talking about Juneteenth earlier in the show, that some of these things didn't happen that long ago. Willie Mays was alive in a time where he was not allowed to play in Major League Baseball. And so, listen, man, living legend. There's nothing else you could say. Willie Mays passed at 93. God bless him that he did get to live a full life at 93 years. That's what I think was what we all, one of our things. I think it's universal across the board. We all want to live a long, blessed life, and Willie Mays certainly got to do that. And he will be missed, and he will be remembered fondly as arguably the greatest baseball player who ever lived. And with that, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to go catch Carving Up Live likely on Monday, unless there's any big news that breaks. I don't think we're going to be doing a show on Friday, so we should be back again, barring any breaking news, back on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on Twitter, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. Of course, be sure to go like, share, comment, and please take 2 seconds out of your day. Hit that big red subscribe button down there. It helps the channel grow exponentially. We just surpassed 1,000 subscribers. We are on our way, ladies and gentlemen. The next goal is 5,000 subs. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, hey, just takes a couple seconds. Hit that big red subscribe button down there. Helps the channel grow exponentially. And if you have subscribed, thank you so much. It means everything to me, to my family, everybody involved with this show. It means the world. Please tell your friends about it, your family about it, everybody you know and love about Carving It Up, except for your sleeping cat. Now that I would just caution you on doing. Nealon's been an up and down nude over the last 24 hours. That's how cats are. You know what I'm saying? That's just it's the name of the game. But please tell everybody you know about Carving Up Live so we can keep this wave going, keep this momentum going towards building this show and this channel and becoming a great community as a result of it. Just as importantly, be sure to go subscribe to the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network, right here on YouTube, as well as any and everywhere you get your favorite podcast, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, any and everywhere you get your favorite podcast. You can find us on the Grid Network, where we dare to be different. Patrick Brown, who you saw in the comments today, also writes some great pieces for the Grid's website. Check those out. He just put out a recent piece on the late, great Jerry West, with more to come on the Celtics. I imagine one on Willie Mays. So definitely stay tuned for his content as well as the stuff we put on our social media and for our podcast platforms and on YouTube. The whole bit. Check out the Grid Network. All right, listen. Rocky Top Watch was as great as advertised, hopefully for the audience. It certainly was for me, because my Tennessee Volunteers are going to the College Baseball National Championship. Let's go. Knocking off Florida State 7-2 today. So we'll play either A&M or the Florida Gators. There's a chance, if we don't do a show Friday, there's a chance that I come into Carving Up Live either down in the dumps or on cloud 9. Only time will tell. But until then, Please stay safe out there. Please be sure to take care of your physical as well as your mental health. And please, please, please be sure to contact your local state representatives and senators to demand change for gun violence in America. This is a huge issue that impacts all Americans, no matter where you lean, right, left, center. And no matter what anybody on either side of the aisle tries to gaslight you on, oh, this isn't a problem, or oh, there's only one solution to the problem. Both are BS. Both are not true. This is a huge problem that has a number of nuanced, detailed solutions to it. So let's do what we can to fight this, because it needs to be fought. All right. I will see y'all likely on Monday. I'll give an update on social media come Friday. Unless there's any sort of breaking news, we'll likely be back on Carving Up Live next Monday, 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific time, same time as usual, as we gear up to the draft, gear up towards NBA free agency. It's going to be a fun next couple of weeks as the NBA landscape shifts and changes to the 2024-2025 season. Come on, Warriors. Let's make something happen, baby. Let's go. All right. See you then. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. And the falls will go to the natty, baby.
Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.